What's going on, Austin, Texas? Welcome to episode 113, season 7 of Talking Throws podcast, Texas style. I'm Coach Jason.
And I'm Coach Jeanette.
And we are throws coaches with the track club, the Throwing Factory. You can go to that website, thethrowingfactory.com, and check out our bios. Big announcement. We've added a new coach to our Throwing Factory umbrella, Mr. Casey Keeter. He will be running north at the Thorn Factory. He will be located in the greater Wichita Falls area, practicing at a small school called Holiday. So if you're in the greater Fort Worth area, greater Wichita Falls area, or maybe even north in the Oklahoma or north of the Red River, and you're looking for a good throws coach, go see Coach Keeter. Also, don't forget about Coach Knight, Knight Power Performance out in Abilene, and then Coach Jarvis East at the Thorn Factory as well. If you're looking for online lessons, in-person lessons, whatever you need, we have you covered in that situation. Also remind you of apparel for 2024. We have some really cool new designs. So go buy you a cool shirt off our apparel page at the website, thethornfactory.com. We want to thank our sponsors for Season 7. Without them, we can't do what we do. We want to thank Texas Track and Field Coaches Association. That website is ttfca.org. If you're looking for indoor meets, outdoor meets for 2024, that's the site to go to. I want to remind everybody, too, that you can find like a top 5 list for girls and boys on the website. So right now, just a reminder, the top discus thrower in the history of the track and field in the state of Texas is a tie between Brian Robertson at Splendora and Gabe Oladipo at Fort Worth Bend Hightower at 2015-02. The second best throw is 2010-10 by Bryce Foster when he was at Katie Taylor at 2021. And in the shot put, of course, Mr. Michael Carter, 83 .5 or a half when he was at Thomas Jefferson in 1979. And then also the guy that we had on the show was Hayden Bevelow at 75 4 3/4 when he was at Whitesboro in 2009. Really cool kind of history lesson at that website, ttfca.org. We also want to thank 4throws.com, quality image price right. Use the code TalkingThrows10 to get that 10% off. If you go to their website and hit the best sellers, you're going to see discounts on 600-gram javelin, 800-gram javelins. You're going to see sales on training shot puts for $70. You're going to see competition shot puts for $88. Also, our big supporter in the Austin area, Ready Up Athletic Development, ran by Zach Phillips. He has created a throws program called Basic Throw Strength. If you go to the website Train Heroic and use this code Throws10, you're getting 20% off. The program is called Basic Throw Strength. It's on the site Train Heroic. Use the code Throws10, you're going to get 20% off. Also, Fiber Sports Discus, a new way to get distance. You can go purchase these at 4throws.com. Use that code TalkingThrows10. But also, too, if you're looking for a link for Fiber Sports, you can go to our website, thethornfactory.com, and you'll scroll down to the bottom on the home page, and you'll see a link for Fiber Sports Discus. Also, NTX timing. Let Carl Hornbeck and his crew manage your data from the start to the finish of any meet. Take advantage of the relationships with Mile Split for free online registration and live results. They can do seating, report generation, timing, live results, and final results, and much, much more. Also, Big Frogs of Colleyville, they handle all our embroidering as well. And then also Maggie's in our table.
Her dog was about to.
Yeah, and then also remind everybody too about lifting DFW as well. Today's guest is currently the Director of Principal Gifts for the University of Texas at Austin. He was the throws coach for Texas State from 2020 to 2022. He threw post-collegiately where he was in the 2016 Olympic trials with a lifetime PR of 63.76 meters, which is 209 feet 2 inches. He was also in the 2012 Olympic trials. He threw for OU from 2008 to 2012, where he placed third in the NCAA in the discus with a mark of 60.94, which is 200 feet, which earned him All-American status. He was also a two-time Big 12 champion during his time at OU. In high school, he was a 2007 Junior Pan Am Games champion. He had a high school PR in the discus, 205 feet and 10 inches. He also threw the shot put in the discus in high school, coming out of the state of Kansas. Please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Luke Bryant, part 1.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going well. Life is good. How are you guys doing up in the DFW area? You guys staying warm?
No, I'm still. And today it was like in the 40s, you would think. But, well, actually it's 36 now. But I'm over it.
We're old and we have blankets.
Hey, heard that. I think you can see all my wife's candles right over here. So, we're trying to stay warm down here ourselves. Man, we're not used to this. This isn't why I moved down to Texas.
And first off, let me say, man, it is a true honor to have you on. You are a legend discus thrower, and I am excited to have you on. And of course, we've been trying to get you on for a while, so I'm glad we finally made this happen. And we just want to hear your story. We're going to kind of start current and kind of work our way back. So anything you want to share, you can. I want to hear some stories about Blue Trick, though. I got to hear some Blue Trick stories. So
we'll have some stories to share. I'll tell you that. I'll say that. And it'll be good. I've had 3 times a day someone said, "Are you the country music singer?" So you just roll with it. I get it. We're like that, Janelle. We're
okay. All right. So I have to I was talking to a college coach today, and I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have." He was talking about the podcast, and I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have Luke Bryant on today." And I said it like 3 times without even thinking about it, what I was saying. He's like, "You're gonna have Luke Bryant, the country music singer, on your podcast?" And I was like,
he used to be a thrower.
I was like, "No, did I say that?" And he goes, "Yeah, you kept saying Luke Bryant." And I was like, "No, Bryant."
Hey, who is that guy? I don't know.
Like an idiot. I felt like an idiot. I was like, "Did I really say that?" Yeah, that happened today. So
I don't know. Did Luke Bryant throw? Maybe we should investigate it.
Now Garth threw javelin at Oklahoma State. Now,
Garth
so
Brooks,
yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty impressive, isn't it? Yeah, he's probably the most famous thrower there is out there. I mean, guys that threw in college, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he may be.
For sure. So, all right, Luke, we want to get started on what you're doing currently. And you're at University of Texas doing Director of Principal Gifts. So what is that?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Jason. So I've been at UT here since October of 22, so a little over a year now. And in my position, it's a fun position. It's a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, my job is to get out and go meet with alums, donors, and other supporters of UT at the principal gift level, which is $1 million or more that they can give to the university. So it's it kind of travels me all around the United States, a lot in Texas, and there's a lot of good things to it. There's let me tell you, a lot of different personalities, a lot of different people from different backgrounds. So it's been a lot of fun. A lot of my background has come through fundraising. I've been doing fundraising in some capacity for about 10 years in college athletics and in higher education. So yeah, that's essentially my role. My main areas, fundraising for Texas, is really the College of Business and athletics. Those are my main areas, but then really it's across the board of anybody who wants to give to UT. So it's a dynamic job. It's got to be on the go pretty consistently, and it's really weird for a guy like me who went to OU.
Yes. That has to be awkward.
Boy, I tell you what, I mean, I try not to bring up very often where I went to school. I
Yeah.
want it to be about the donor. But when they do ask, what's really unique about this, I said, oh, I went to OU, and they go, oh man, oh dude, I'm sorry, that's terrible. But what's really funny? What they say to me, they say, you know what, man, we respect OU. It's a great athletic department, great university, but we're so glad you're not an Aggie because we just can't rock with that.
That's
So,
funny.
so what's interesting though is I've had a lot of uh, uh, of folks I competed against that when I was at OU, they competed at UT from Hayden Bailio to Krauser was there, Jacob Thurmalin, Brandon Drennan, all those guys were great guys to hang out with. So a lot of times it was a really cool camaraderie with UT. So, I guess it's been a little bit weird, but it's been a little bit easier transition than I expected.
Wow.
So what kind of degree do you have to get that job?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no telling. So I did my undergrad in communication,
Okay.
and then I did my master's degree in athletic administration.
Okay.
So that's what kind of led me down that path. I did fundraising for a couple years at OU as a graduate assistant, and then kind of my ties here in Texas. I've been in Texas almost a decade now. I spent 2 years down at UTSA down there in athletics fundraising. 6 years at Texas State. That was kind of a unique position where I did athletic administration and fundraising for 6 years, and then 2.5 years coaching track as well, and then ultimately now at UT. So I joke saying, I just keep on coming up I-35. So who knows where I'll be at next?
Yeah. So is your position like direct reporting to like the president of UT? Is that kind of like who you directly report to?
Yeah, so my position essentially reports up to our vice president of
Okay.
development, and he's kind of at the same, I guess you could say, level per se as like Chris Del Conte,
Okay.
UT's athletic director, and so I work very closely with athletics. With a lot of things as I'm university wide. So I'll bring in some alums that know Chris really well, and bring in alums that could be potential donors to UT, and we'll meet with Chris, and we'll go across the board. But I think that's what makes it fun in my job is I'll meet with folks that can be former professional athletes to entrepreneurs to individuals that may be interested in like neurology and engineering. And I'll be the first to tell you, I don't know a single thing about it. So I hit up my colleagues and I say, hey, come on in, let's talk about it. But at the end of the day, I think that's a cool part of what we have at UT. It's very collaborative. We work really well together. And so, our approach is, especially my role is I'm across the university. So I have to be essentially a mile long and an inch deep. I need to know a little bit about a lot of different things.
Jack of all
So
trades.
with the donations and gathering alum, I'm real curious how you're gonna answer this. The NIL money and all that type stuff is that separate? Is different in your role as what you do, and somebody else in the other departments handle that, or is it kind of shared funds? Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll tell you, I try not to touch that with a 10-foot pole
Okay.
because that is a crazy element right now in college athletics. But I've worked with some alums um, that they've donated to NIL, and they want to be a part of that. It's kind of a weird gray area because if you donate to NIL, you're not. It's essentially a foundation, a separate organization from the university. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll connect them with that individual, who may be ahead of that foundation. So for example, UT is the Texas One Fund. So we may try to get them connected with them, or maybe a colleague of mine within athletics. and then we'll work from there. So it's just really it's an interesting dynamic, I guess you could say, right now with NIL. So trying to navigate that the best we can and get folks in my position is wherever they're most donor centric. That's my biggest key.
Yeah. And it goes to show you too how undereducated the public is to understanding what NIL, because what all we see maybe is what's on Twitter or Instagram of this person transferring here because of this rumored NIL. But we won't really know, Coach Stark is paying him out of his pocket. Like, Earl Campbell's paying him $200 a week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the cool thing, and I'm not really into the weeds of this as much, but what I could tell you is, a lot of the student athletes at UT, I know they do a lot of different things with community impact. Throughout Austin and different organizations. It may be going out there and helping. I think it was Chris Del Conte, the athletic director here at UT, recently, within past 6 months, was in a meeting and he was discussing how a lot of the student athletes are out there at food shelters serving the Austin community, helping clean up the streets and doing different things with NIL. So there are things where I think there's a lot of misunderstanding that, the student athletes come in and they're just given free money. No, there is something that they do have to be a part of, and they're going to help out, the community, or if that means, let's just say if it's a commercial on TV, if it's I can speak to my time at Texas State, if it's a restaurant and they need to say I'm a so-and-so restaurant athlete, that may be a smaller NIL deal, but you promote stuff on your social media. So I will quote, a lot of folks in the industry, the leaders, and they've said this is the Wild West. We've never seen this in college athletics. And there's people way more intelligent than me, figuring that thing out.
I did, for all the ladies out there, we have to ask, have you met Matthew McConaughey? Has he donated?
That may be privileged information.
Yeah, well, I can't speak to that confidentiality wise, but I have not.
You have not. Oh wow.
I have not.
Well, so being a former thrower, and I have to ask this: do you keep up with what's going on with Valerie and what Zeb's doing there, and Pip and Trip and all the stuff going on at Texas? That has to be kind of kind of draw you in with your background.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of it, I followed even from my time at Texas State, being at Texas State for 6 years and follow up and seeing what the guys have done up there and the gals up at UT is tremendous. I'm not heavily, I'm virtually really not involved with the track team at all, in some ways. So, I'm in my position, I'll definitely follow, but at the end of the day, I'm kind of outbound. I spend a lot of time on the road. I'll tell you in December, I was in LA a couple times. I was in Denver, I think Houston 3 times. I think tomorrow I go to Houston for the next 2 days, and then I'm going to be in Boston next week. So really, I'm outbound all the time. We're at UT. I think at the end of the day, not to go much too down a fundraising story here, but we're trying to raise $7 billion, as in boy. So it's the largest fundraising campaign ever for a university. So I definitely follow track. But, I'm trying to focus in on what I need to get done. But no, I'll tell you what Trip, what he's done up there. I don't know him personally very well, but obviously with you got the Olympic gold medalist, right there in Val. It's amazing what she's done. And Zeb, Zeb's been at UT now, what, 5 years now, maybe 5-6 years. It's been really, really good. I spent, I think a lot of the years that I compete against was when Mario was the throws coach there and head coach. And so a lot of the throwers there from when he was coaching were athletes I spent a little bit more time with and followed. But every once in a while, I think I'll drive down, I think it's Manor Road, and I'll look on over and I'll see Valerie out there, throwing, and it's like, well, I wonder how far that one was.
For sure.
I have to ask, does your wife get to travel with you and all this fun?
She's done a few times. She's done a few times traveling with me, which is a lot of fun. We went to Santa Barbara. I think in March we went to Telluride, Colorado back in July. So there are some times where she'll travel with me and it's fun, but a lot of my trips I try to make them pretty quick, 36 hours. So I try to, for example, fly into LA on a Thursday morning and then get back by Friday night. So it's pretty quick trips.
Wow, that's cool. I'm kind of because I've always wanted to work in athletics, but in your mind of working as athletics as a former athlete, you thought you coached. You were like, you thought you coached, and there was the trainer, and then you had the athletic director who was probably a former coach. You never thought about people who actually worked in a collegiate office in collegiate athletics and stuff, and there is an avenue, because I have kids ask me all the time, like, how do you go get a job in college, besides coaching?
Oh yeah,
The job.
absolutely. Well, that's something that I think I've talked to folks kind of in other student athletes in my background when they talk about, hey, I want to work in college athletics or university. How do I do that? I tell you what, I was very lucky. I was it was my junior year going into my senior year. And I said, you know what, either I want to be in college athletics as an administrator or a college coach. And bottom line, I went to our sport administrator, Nikki Moore, who's now the AD at Cornell. And she said, Luke, I think you'd be good at development. And I think my response was, the hell is development? I don't know what that is. What? And at the end of the day, I was used to my interactions as a student athlete was with your coaches, your trainers, your strength coaches, maybe compliance and academics. But there's this whole other side of external of marketing, sponsorship, ticket sales, donations, all this different side you don't see a lot of as a current student athlete. So for me, I was very fortunate to get into that other side. And that's why folks who want to get into it, there's so many different areas that you can do. I mean, your facilities folks in college athletics, if they're out there, they're taking care of your facilities, that's the weight room or the track, the football stadium, even event management, who runs the events at, these basketball games where there's 10,000 people. There's a lot of different opportunities, but, I will say what's funny though, in facilities as a former throws coach, well, I tell you what, I don't know many throws coaches across the country that get along with those facility folks. Because throws coaches, you got your own niche. This is how you want the ring. This is how you want the nets. This and that. This is how I want the lines. So that feels like that's a constant battle, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
As I'm sure y'all have probably had y'all self.
Oh yes, for sure.
That's not the money making thing that your lines don't have to look as good as a football field.
No doubt.
Like, lines, these aren't on TV. It don't matter.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a great segue into your time as a coach. What is that experience, during your time as coaching at Texas State? And I'm kind of curious. Do you take a lot of those attributes that you were as a coach, and do you do that now in your current job? Do you tie that in?
Yeah. I'm sorry. First part of that question, Jason, was it
just kind of your experience as a coach at Texas State? You were there a couple of years. You were also had other roles at Texas State. And I'm kind of curious, that leadership role, that dealing with multi-personalities and different emotions of every day of handling juggling your athletes, but then also handling very diverse, broad people that you deal with in your current job, do you use some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my time at Texas State was tremendous. I really enjoyed my time there. 6 years I was brought in as assistant athletic director, was moved up to associate athletic director. And so, in that role, wore a lot of different hats. At the end of the day, it was fundraising was my main priority at Texas State. And then ultimately transitioned into coaching as well for several years. And it was a great experience. The head coach who brought me in there, Jody Stewart, who was the director of track and field. I was there for 1 year with him. There was a change there. He moved on. John Frazier came on in. I was on board with him for a year. Had a great experience with Coach Frazier. Kind of side note, Coach Frazier originally recruited me at the University of Arizona, where I actually went my freshman year.
Yeah.
So long story short, I've known Frazier for a long time and had a great experience with him, and actually just had lunch with him a week or two ago, and root for him and what the team's doing there. But I think that the experience that I had at Texas State coaching track and then what I have to do now, I think it's very similar. Coaching track and taking it into the professional world. I think it's, at the end of the day, I think the skills that you develop as a student athlete and then as a coach, specifically as a coach, you have to be, you got to communicate on a high level. I mean, I think that's the end of the day what you got to do. I think you got to lead by example. I think you have to work hard. You have to work hard, and I think all those things, play a big role into what I have to do. And I think, when you're talking about coaching, what I had to do at Texas State, I've got kids from a variety of different backgrounds.
Yeah.
Kids from Iowa to New Jersey to Houston, one of the biggest cities in the country, to middle of nowhere, Texas.
Yeah.
And I think you got to meet the kids with where they're at in their personality and understand that it's the same way as if I'm talking to a colleague today at UT. Same way if I'm talking to a donor, I can't come into a donor first time they ever met somebody in 30 years from UT and, say, hey, give me a 7-8 figure gift. That's, it's not going to happen. So
Yeah.
I mean, it could, but it's an anomaly. So I think it's meeting the donors where they're at. The same thing with the kids, right? I think when you're coaching athletes in college, you can't expect a kid to come in here, let's just make it up, as a female 45 footer and, expect in, 6 months she's throwing 58 feet. So I think all those skills of coaching at Texas State have really put me in a good position at a UT. Very similar in a lot of ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Great answer. Great answer. I'm kind of curious. Do you miss it? Do you miss coaching? Is there a chance 10 years down the road that we come back into it?
Well, hey, you know what? I'll never say never, Jason. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see where things end up. I definitely say, to answer your question, sure, I absolutely do. Miss coaching in a lot of ways. I think there's a lot of great things in it. I could see myself coaching again for sure. I will say, there's a lot of great things here on the other side of what I have. UT is a great university. My wife works for a company that's headquartered here in Austin. And so at the end of the day, we love the area. I enjoy my job. She enjoys her job. And, what do they say? Keep mama happy. So, hey man, I'm right now it's the right place for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, so we had T-Mon Johnson he was one of our first guests. You coached him, or you recruited him to Texas State, right? Am I right on that?
Yeah, so Tamon, I coached him very briefly.
Okay.
Very, very briefly. So I filled in. I call it filling in, interim throws coach, if you want to call it that. Back during the 2018 fall semester.
Okay.
So the throws coach at the time she left, and there was a gap really in that fall semester. And I was already working at Texas State, and it was Tamon's senior year, so I came in and filled in for that fall semester. Maybe it was a couple months here and there. I can't recall. But Tamon was obviously a very, very special
Yeah.
athlete, very, very driven, passionate, and I think all qualities that were great. And I think he really did a good job of elevating, that program there at Texas State, specifically in the throws. But at the end of the day, when I came in there, Jason, Janelle, in that fall semester of 2018, I knew it was literally an interim role.
Okay.
It was not going to be permanent. I was in a assistant athletic director role at Texas State. Head coach approached me like, "Hey, can you fill in until we get the new throws coach?"
Okay.
So I knew it wasn't anything long term. And my goal is, I said, "Hey, I just want to keep that momentum going. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to change anything in this fall semester." And so with Tamon, I think he was already a 1970, 1980 guy at that time. And so really it was, it was a different approach with him, because it was like, "Hey, you're doing well. You're going in your senior year. Let's have a little bit more feedback here and partnership of what you feel like doing," versus if it was a true freshman who was learning the spin for the first time.
Yeah.
Very different approach. Is probably what y'all do in your job. Go to the throws quite a bit, right?
Yeah. All right, you're going to Glide.
Yeah.
How about we shuffle?
Exactly.
Yeah. So just kind of, was that one of the things you would put on your suit and go try to do donations from 8 to 4, then put on the whistle and change and get your show throwing shoes on and work with Timon in the afternoon?
Yeah, it really was. A lot of times I would be wearing, I'd be kind of and this is what I did for my couple last years, my last 2 years at Texas State. I'd be out there fundraising or with administration from 8 to 1. And then really from 1 o'clock on, I'd be out, change clothes. I'm in shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm out there coaching. And then afterwards I'm out on the phone recruiting. So truly was a kind of a split job in a lot of ways. But there was a few times, I think one of my first practices out there with Tamon and the crew, I think I was wearing probably dress shoes, slacks, and a button down, and it was raining, and I think I was probably demonstrating in dress shoes, and they're probably like, "Who is this guy?" But it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Did you throw any? Did you so let me show you how to do it.
Well, I didn't want to pull a hammy. I didn't want to do any of that. I didn't want to show them anything. They didn't want to see that either. But I think a lot of times when I was coaching, those are things I really tried to implement.
Yeah.
Demonstrating, and really showing, giving examples of what it is. And I think, a big part of that was my, really foundation that I learned coaching wise from Brian Blutrick. When I was with him at OU, and obviously he's moved on. He went to Arizona State and then Oregon. But Blutrick, Blue could sit here and do. He's not going to get in there and throw the discus or throw the shot, but he could do a drill and show you, "Hey, Jason, you're here. You need to be here." And he could do those different things. So I think a lot of those cues, all those things I brought, kind of the table. Now, touching the implement, no. Yeah, those are done. But I could show you do some turns and maybe here and there. But I don't want to do it, and you all don't want to see me throw it either.
Did you find yourself? Did you ever have those? Because I did when I coached, and still this day, I can remember stuff people in my past have said to me, or cues and stuff that you would kind of just in your long-term memory. Do you find yourself using the same cues that he might have said your senior year at OU or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think Blue said a lot of things to me. I think one of my favorites with Blue it probably wasn't my senior year, but freshman or sophomore year,
Yeah.
he'd be like, just do it. Not that hard. Just do it. Like get off your left or head chest up in the middle, something along those lines, those cues. And so, obviously it may have been something we'd been working on for weeks or months. And, at some point I remember Blue being like, just do it. It's not that hard. Just do it. And in some ways I remember being like,
Okay.
well,
It is hard.
okay, it's not that simple, but I think it did click in a lot of ways. It was like, because in my mind, I was thinking about distance. I was thinking about this and that. How far is it going to throw, or how far I'm going to throw this or that. And I think when you put it pretty simply of, hey, just on this throw, in this example, keep your chest up in the middle. Doesn't matter if the discus goes left, right, center, up, down. That's all we're working on. So I did catch myself in a lot of terms, like, saying that and being like, man, a friend of mine who I talk to very frequently, John Ridgway, who's over at the University of Texas at Arlington, UTA, he's a blue trick guy. And so him and we would talk about a lot of different things that we would catch ourselves saying, because Blue Trick coached him at North Carolina, and then Blue coached me at OU, so we would revert and say a lot of those same things. So many times I've catch myself doing that.
Wow, that is so good. So did he coach you post collegiately in the trials in 2016 and even 2012?
Yeah, so 2012 he did. That was my senior year in college.
Okay.
So I wrapped up there. 2013 to 14, I was in grad school at OU at the time. And we worked together maybe once a week, every couple weeks. And Blue was great, especially with our other head coaches there. At the end of the day, Blue would say, hey, I've got a group going on here at 1 o'clock or 2, you can jump on in and throw with us. But at the end of the day, I had grad school. I was also working in athletic administration as a graduate assistant. So my schedule was very fluid. I didn't have a lot of free time. So it was more like when I could pop in and be in his groups, I would. If not, I had full access to the facilities to throw there. So we did work together a little bit there, and then I went down to actually UTSA. I was working down there in 2016 when I went to trials in 2016. So was throwing down there on my own, but mainly with Blue 08 to about 14. We were
working with Chip Adams at UTSA while you were getting ready for 2016.
A little bit. We worked together a little bit here and there. And Chris, Chris did a really good job of, we talk about throws, or I'd give him, I trained a little bit at the facility there at UTSA, and he'd give me some, cues here and there. I'd say, hey, here, look at this video. What do you think? And so Chris was very, very helpful. He did a very great job of, working with me, and it was a little bit different situation as well there, because once again, I'm working full time. And those were my big priorities. He has his priorities, as a coach, but he was he still is today. I still talk to Chris, and, I'd show him videos, and, he'd give me a few cues here and there. And Chris was very helpful. And I think as y'all probably know, and many throwers, it's a hard road post collegiately.
Yeah.
So Chris was very, very helpful, to say the least.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious, do you ever reflect, because you're just very busy with your training and have your hats, wearing multi hats. Do you ever think that if I'd have just maybe put more time into my throwing, could I got maybe that Olympic opportunity? Is that kind of in the back of your mind? And the reason I say that, dude, because I've had many people tell me that you were a stud. Like, you have the longest effing arms of anybody I've ever seen. And how in the hell you can keep your discus back, like behind the left butt cheek, going left is crazy, to get that pull. Like, did you ever think that if I'd have just maybe just put all my eggs into this one basket?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe, maybe I could have done a little bit better. Maybe I could have made a little bit more noise. It's hard to tell though. I mean, I think it's really hard to say, and I, one of the things I think about is, and I kept this very quiet. I didn't tell a lot of people this. Is in 2010 I had a sports hernia surgery, and so that was 20. So my junior year, I was banged up. I had sports hernia surgery. That was my junior year. My senior year, I was healthy. My first year post collegiately, I got hurt. My second year post collegiately, I was hurt. I took a year off, came back. End of the day, I just had a lot. I was really banged on up, and so I don't know. Maybe if I would have put everything into it in a little bit of way, I'd say, maybe, maybe I could have done, a little bit better. Maybe I could have done some things, but I think I was banged up. And then also, I think, post collegiately today in the United States, it is a very different animal than where it was 10, 20 years ago. I remember talking to Jared Rome, rest in peace, Jared. Jared was a guy who he talks about. I remember talking to him. I think he graduated in 98, 99 from Boise State.
Mm-hmm.
Jared was working like as a strength coach, a substitute teacher, maybe construction to make an Olympic team in 2004.
Yeah.
And he did all that stuff. And I think that's a hard road that a lot of folks had. And it's still hard today. But I remember coming out in 2012. I mean, it was very similar in a lot of ways. You kind of had to make it on your own. And so, at the end of the day, when I graduated from college, well, hey, how am I, I got to find a way to, I got a degree, got a way to live. So yeah, I mean, maybe if I would have had a few more years to solely focus in on throwing and just do that, maybe, but you move on and you do the best you can and go from there.
I'm kind of curious. I'm gonna pick your coaching throwing brain of your elite status. What was your perception of making the discus fly? And I say that because throwing a 2K of someone your size with your arm length, was very unique. And some people, can't make that 2K fly to go far, to throw at a high 60, 70 meter level. I'm kind of curious, what's your thoughts on making it go that far?
That's a great question.
Do it.
Yeah, just do it. Not that hard. Come on.
All right, next question.
Yeah, just move on. Come on, just throw the dang thing.
Tune in next Sunday for part 2 with Bryant. All right, we want to thank our sponsors for season 7?
Yes.
Season 7, Texas Track and Field Coach Association, TSCA.org. For the latest and greatest. Go check out all the meets are posted. Season's pretty much started, right? High school seasons will be kicking off. All the records are there. Go look at those. fourthrows.com. Use the code TalkingThrows10 to get 10% off. Any kind of implements you want, go check those out. Ready Up AD, if you're in the Austin area, call Zach Phillips at 512-507-8347. And remember to check out his program. It's at the Train Her Old website. It's called Basic Throw Strength, and use that code Throws10 to get 20% off. NTX Timing, you're going to be seeing them around a lot at meets this spring. So give Carl Hornback a call, and their quotes, I love their quotes, I always say them. Let us do the work while you coach, and they're committed to excellence, and if you're waiting around at a track meet, you ain't waiting on them. Big Frogs Colleyville, check them out for all our embroidery needs. And as always, Lifting DFW, give us a call. Train
Also-
you in all the lifting.
Yeah, but also too, please go support our YouTube channel. Thank y'all. See y'all down the road.
Thank you.